total shock, the ones that are living.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. And, here's another kind of humanitarian aid that we could give is simply comfort and psychological help, psychiatric help even, to help them get through this time of grieving and, not
loss,
crisis alone, but also the grieving.
Could you, in remote viewing, go in and, let's say you have a map in front of you and be tasked to gather data? What will be the best gathering place in the next week to 2 weeks for people of Japan to stay safe? There may be a couple places in Japan that maybe more people should be evacuated to until the nuclear situation is very clear, or at least clearly communicated and honestly communicated to the rest of the population. Wouldn't that be useful?
Yeah, that kind of work for controlled remote viewer is just basic remote viewing. I mean, that's a piece of cake.
I mean, you could even do safe for the next 14 days, the next 28 days. In other words, while they're in the midst of the traditional trying to sort it in a state of emergency, something that's time sensitive, people could be rerouted and at that location brought food and water and shelter or other pathways of getting shelter in the interim. I think when things like this happen, people are thinking about staying alive first. And we're 6 days out now, and people are glued to the news around the clock, so productivity is not great. And a lot of people feel that they're not getting the correct transmission of information in terms of what the radiation levels really are and how they're changing, good or bad.
Right, and the Japanese government has put a blackout on that information so that the Japanese people are left wondering. And it's a situation right now to where no news is even scarier than bad news. And so right now the Japanese government has basically put out a blackout on all of the radiation information to the Japanese people.
Could Russia help bring ships in or temporarily house people or bring people over, or any of the other countries nearby?
Yeah, China, Mongolia, Russia, they can all be of help in that way.
Let's suppose that you were the Emperor of Japan this moment. With your abilities and insight, what would you do?
Basically, when you get hurt, you go to somebody who can heal.
Right. And
if I were the Emperor of Japan, I would start asking for some help, some healing. The pride of being self-sufficient and all that is a great thing to have. But when a crisis comes, and it's a crisis of this measure, this magnitude, it doesn't hurt to, just put out a call for help and then to accept it.
You would go into a controlled remote viewing session as well to see what are the most urgent tasks. How would it look like in terms of the protocol?
Okay, in terms of the protocol, asking for help, the Japanese people and the Japanese government are the ones who would have to then say, okay, here's the help I need and here's the way we need it. Just asking for randomized volunteers, of course, is not beneficial, and it's not the organized Japanese way. And so the help that would come would have to be directed by the Japanese themselves, by their own emergency crews, by their own emergency people, because they're the ones who know the Japanese, they're the ones who know the situation best, and so on. And so what I would do is I would call for help in the terms of food, supplies, help for, shelter for those who have just lost their homes, and have it under the Japanese direction. I think it has to be that way because the Japanese are prepared for these things and they are very organized in their preparation. And so any help that comes in, I think, has to be directed by the Japanese themselves.
I get that. Where did you hear that there were blackouts? Is it only blackouts in the Fukushima
I really don't know.
area?
The guy I was talking to in Japan, and in Tokyo, said that they cannot get any information whatever about the nuclear plants and all that, and that basically he said the blackout has been put on any information along that line. That they keep promising that when things are over, they'll let everybody know what went on. But right now, they're not wanting to get people distraught and get people scared and all that. And of course, like I say, in a situation like that, no news is even worse than the bad news.
Sure. Why is it that controlled remote viewing is able to transcend time and space? What is it about time and space that's pivotal that most of us don't know and aren't tracking?
One of the questions that we have always gotten asked is, where does the information come from? To tell the truth, we have no idea. We know that it comes through the subconscious mind, and that whether you believe in spirit guides or holograms in the universe or the collective consciousness or whatever, the information still comes into your subconscious mind. The controlled remote viewing is a set of tools to get what's in your subconscious up to your conscious mind so that it can get written down on paper and sent to somebody who helps. As far as the mechanics of where the subconscious mind gets the information and the mechanics of how it does that, I wish I had an answer, but the fact is we don't. We just, people will tell me that it comes from spirit guides or whatever, and my take on this is very much the real world take that we had in the military, and that is wherever you believe the information comes from or how it gets to you is fine with me if you can help me bring that missing kid home alive. And I'm very practical minded about this, and in fact, one of the things you'll find about all of the controlled remote viewers is that they're very practical, real-world minded. The mechanics of it, we don't know where the subconscious gets the information or how it moves through time and space. And the fact is, we don't care. All we care is, can you do it accurately? Can you get the information that's going to tell an archaeologist, dig here and you'll find something, or tell a cop, go here and you'll find the missing kid? And if we can do that, then we'll leave it to philosophers to decide where the information comes from.
Is the subconscious mind like an antenna, or it's a storage house?
Well,
or both?
Yeah, that's one thing the philosophers have to work on. I kind of think it's both, and I kind of think that the subconscious mind is not limited to fitting inside your skin. I think the subconscious mind actually goes much farther out from you than that, possibly out to being the collective consciousness. But that's my philosophy. Other people have different philosophies, and like I say, the controlled remote viewing, well, like the two soldiers that were taken hostage, what we did was, what I did on this one, I described their location. That information was sent over to their military unit, and once they saw the sketches, once they saw the description of the location, they said, "Oh, we know exactly where that is." They took a team out there. The two hostages had already been moved, and yet the